All right, welcome to tonight's episode of Logan Sports Takes here. We're going to do a quick recap of last week's divisional matchups. All four games were incredible ones. We started off with the early game, the Titans versus the Bengals. I had the Bengals winning that one. I felt like the Bengals and Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow, that entire offense was perfect that game, except the offensive line. And that is what I feel like is the most important part for the Bengals going forward, is fixing that offensive line. You know, they had 9 sacks in that game. It was very hard for them to get anything going because of that. And it really was their downfall in the end, was not being able to protect Joe Burrow. And that's what we saw last year. What ended up leading to his ACL injury was the ability to not block, or the inability to block for that offensive line. They made some adjustments over the offseason. You know, getting rid of Michael Jordan was one of those big pieces right there. They also were able to pick up Quentin Spain from the Bills after he was released shockingly last year. He has been a huge pickup for this team, and that has really been one of the offensive focal pieces for the Bengals offensive line that's kind of gone underrated, is Spain's ability to play where he needs to play. He is a very versatile player, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But now we need to focus more on the Titans. I'll get into the Bengals in the next episode that I'll be making right after this one. The Titans have a lot of problems that they need to fix, which is going to be tough for them. Ryan Tannehill, it's obvious that he is not the answer in Tennessee. Did not do hot at all. Had 2 interceptions, one to start off right away. I think he might have had a third. I don't have any stats on hand right now, but Ryan Tannehill is not it. You know, Derrick Henry, he's going to charge as much as he can. You know, if he stayed healthy all year, this team would have been looking perfect. But because Derrick Henry had just came back from his foot injury, I don't know what Mike Vrabel was thinking, but in no way should you give Derrick Henry the snap count that Derrick Henry was given. It was insane. I even saw a report saying that he was going to have the same workload that led to his injury against the Colts. And to me, that is just insane. Derrick Henry is your star offensive player. There is no reason for you to be doing that. In the next game, we had the Packers versus the 49ers, and what was a defensive bout between these two teams. A combined 23 points scored, and what was not really a close one to start off. The Packers went up and scored on the opening drive, putting them up 7-0. That was about all any team did offensively. In fact, it was the only offensive touchdown of this game. The one for the 49ers, for those of you wondering, came off a blocked punt. What has really been the downfall for this Packers team these past few years has been depth in those role player pieces, which you can see on special teams. You know, last year all the memes came from Kevin King, him being burnt toast in coverage to Scotty Miller in the NFC Championship game, in which we'll get to those Bucs after this one. But the Packers special team has really just been the death of them. You know, there was that game early in the season between the Bengals and the Packers where there were so many missed field goals. It was insane. Evan McPherson actually went on to win the game against the Titans this week. Mason Crosby missed a field goal that would have tied this game up, potentially sent it to overtime. But you got to give a lot of credit to Robbie Gold. He is perfect from anywhere in the postseason. 20 for 20. I think he's 14 for 14 from field goals as well. You know, he hasn't had much experience in the playoffs, but when he is playing, he is perfect. Robbie Gold really is one of the most underrated kickers in the NFL, not just this year, but in the entire NFL this season and in the past 5-10 years. You know, he was let go by the Bears. For some reason, they did not want him. I don't know why. But Robbie Gold is proving all the haters wrong. I love Robbie Gold. Well, I'm a Rams fan. I think Robbie Gold is without a doubt one of the best kickers in the league, and I have a lot of respect for him. The Packers, though, they are not looking too good going into this offseason with $50 million in the hole. You got a bunch of players to re-sign. You got players like Devontae Adams, Robert Tonyan. You got to get Aaron Rodgers happy, which is not going to happen by all accounts. held out of training camp and what was expected to be the last dance type season that ended up being one and done for the Packers. And this team, it's going in for the long haul here. We're really about to see what Matt LaFleur is as a coach. If he can get this team above 500 next year, pending all the changes like Devontae Adams and Robert Tonyan, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, also a free agent, depending on what they're going to do at that quarterback spot, and I saw a report saying Marcus Mariota might be the answer, which would be interesting with Jordan Love's whole situation, his rookie contract. I would be interested to see what the Packers end up doing. I don't like how the NFC North is looking. Packers looking to get into a deep rebuild. Vikings and Bears pulling off one right now. Both of them actually hired their general managers within 24 hours apart. Got Ryan Poles, who the Bears stole from the Chiefs, and the Vikings stole the scouting coach for the Browns, and I'm not even going to try and say his name because it is extremely hard to pronounce. I'll probably put in something overdub, but the Lions, for some reason the Lions are looking like the best team in the NFC North right now, and that's just because the Lions are the only team that is not moving parts all over the place and have somewhat of a future, which both teams, well, actually the Bears don't have a first-round draft pick, the Vikings do, so that was going to be very interesting draft time comes around on who is going to try and put themselves in a contender role. If any of those teams will, we might see them like the NFC East just 2 years ago. Speaking of NFC East, actually, there's no NFC East teams. Suck it, Cowboys. But last year we did see a matchup between the NFC East winner, the Washington football team, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. Tampa tried to repeat, got in through the first round versus the Eagles, and ran right into the Ram in the second round. The Rams pull off a thriller, winning 30-27. What a game this was. You know, I was looking back at it. I was actually at work at this game, so I wasn't able to see it, but I did see what ended up happening. I had score updates. I was able to watch little bits and pieces of it. It was a great game to watch between these two teams. Cooper Kupp is insane, in my opinion. He is the most valuable player this year. It doesn't matter if it's a quarterback-driven award. In my opinion, he is the most valuable player this year. He is the first wide receiver to ever go the 2,000-yard mark, including postseason. Regular season, he was very close, only 18 yards shy of Calvin Johnson's record, and if it weren't for a couple of down games that he had, where it was only 90 yards in a game, then Cooper Kupp would have had so many more yards this year, so many more touchdowns. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp combined had around 15 total touchdowns. I believe it was actually 16, and that is the second most in NFL history for first-year quarterback wide receiver combinations. And it really just goes to show that this Rams team is legit. And as for the Buccaneers, Gronk said he's probably not going to play next year, so that's going to leave Cameron Brate as the starting tight end. And for potentially the starting quarterback, it might be Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask. And Tom Brady has made some very cryptic messages about who or what he is doing going into the offseason, ending off his most recent Instagram post saying, "I love you," to all of the teammates that he's had over the years. Really, some weird things, and we might just see the majority of our childhood quarterbacks gone. Breeze, Manning, both Mannings, Brady, Roethlisberger, and eventually Aaron Rodgers. And for our final game, we have probably the greatest game of all playoff history. The Bills and the Chiefs played in a thriller. The Bills and Chiefs, 25 points scored in the final 2 minutes of that game. Josh Allen leading down, scoring Gabriel Davis with 4 touchdowns, the most in NFL history for a playoff game. He really had himself a night. We all knew Josh Allen was legit. Gabriel Davis, really proved himself. Stephon Diggs kind of a no-show in this one, but it shows that the Bills need a run game, as they did not have one. It was all Josh Allen, and the Chiefs are slowly starting to pull away as the favorites to win the AFC and potentially the Super Bowl. And that will wrap up this episode of Logan's Sports Takes here. Just some closing thoughts here. My next episode, I will be going into a preview of this weekend's matchups. These ones will be a little bit more in depth. I had to go kind of quickly for these ones. Tried to focus more on the losing teams on this one and what futures might behold. You might have seen me touch and go, especially with the Bengals there. But this next episode, following episode after this one actually, I expect some more having to do with just the teams that are still left. I'll play a fun little rankings game that I thought up of. I think should be pretty fun. Thank you guys for listening to this episode here of Logan Sports Takes, and we'll be back right after this one.